There is a major storm headed across the North Atlantic and expected to impact the United Kingdom and France. We also have the tropics staying on the hotter side. What's going on, guys? I'm certified meteorologist Jonathan Kegas. In this video, we're going to break down both of those storms and other disturbance developing in the Caribbean. Chances are growing for at least a tropical depression over the next couple of days. And then we'll revisit the big cold blast that is arriving in time for Halloween. Freeze watches and warnings posted through the Deep South. If you want to stay up to date on all things weather, of course, in the United States, the Caribbean, and of course the United Kingdom, you have to hit subscribe. Please do that. If you just so happen to find this content helpful, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help us out a lot. We are going to start with Storm Ciaran here, expected to impact the United Kingdom and France over the next couple of days, really Wednesday and Thursday are the first couple of days of November, and then we're going to venture into the tropics, and then we'll talk about that cold blast. Here it is right here developing. You see that swirl here, aided by a jet stream that is screaming across the North Atlantic. We're going to take a look at the jet stream winds that are just racing again across the ocean, but that swirl here expected to slam Ireland, parts of England, into France, even getting into Spain. Stronger winds coming to Italy as well. So we have a major system. We'll take a look at some of the wind speed forecasts here from the model, both in kilometers per hour and miles per hour coming up. So no matter what units you observe, you will stay up to date. Here is the jet stream here, that narrow ribbon of air. The jet streak here highlighted in purple. Again, it's that pinkish color here, just screaming across the North Atlantic, coming out of the Canadian Maritimes and the northern United States, and then eventually going to lift north. But the stronger winds here, aided by this system, are going to be incredible. I want to show you here kind of the track of this system. And what we're looking at here is basically, well, it is the mean sea level pressure here. And the darker reds that pop up are the stronger the pressure, the lower the pressure. And once we have those lower pressures, we have the stronger storm. So you see here most of the United Kingdom into France, that deep, deep red here. Massive storm coming through Wednesday, Thursday, and then eventually starting to loosen its grip a little bit as we get into Friday. So there is Thursday. We have this big, big storm. Again, for reference, here is Ireland, here is England, and then France. There's a lot of lines there. When you have those lines tightly packed like that, it's kind of hard to see the map, what I'm showing you, but that means we have some very, very strong winds, those isobars, that line of equal pressure there. And when they were tightly packed, that means we have a very, very strong storm. So now I want to show you the wind speed. First, I'm going to show you miles per hour, and then I am going to show you kilometers per hour. So the time here is 10 o'clock in the morning. This is Eastern time. So we're going to fast forward there 5 to 6 hours, depending upon where you are in Europe here. So this is going to be early on the early stages of the afternoon, really through the middle and evening of Wednesday, November 1st. And the bigger thing here is watch what happens as the winds really start to ramp up. So this is as we go into Thursday morning. This is about 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning on November 2nd now. Look at this. This is in miles per hour. I'll show you kilometers per hour in just 1 second. On the northwest tip of France here, 80 to 90 mile per hour wind gusts. Paris, we're talking about 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts. Again, there are warnings up from the weather agencies in Europe all over the place. So again, this is a storm, if you happen to be tuning in from the United Kingdom or France or Spain, Italy, to take seriously. Again, this is going to be one of those crazy ones. Here we go, Thursday night into early Friday morning. We finally start to see the winds come down a little bit. Still a little gusty, especially toward places like Budapest, getting into Stockholm. The winds are going to be much, much lower, though, than what we're looking at late in the day on Wednesday and then earlier on Thursday. So a crazy storm here. Now I want to show you the future wind gusts in kilometers per hour for those that observe kilometers per hour. Again, just to give you kind of an idea here. So we talked about the 80 to 90 mile per hour wind gusts. Again, that kind of equates to 110 to 120 kilometer per hour gusts here on the northwest side of France. I think this is going to be the highest impact area. Same around London. Again, the southern tip of England is going to get rocked with the winds here. Southern tip of Ireland as well. And then through a lot of France, you see into the western side of France, still 90 to 100 kilometer per hour wind gusts here, keeping things extremely windy. As we move into Thursday night, this is going to be early Friday morning, again, local time. So this one means business. We're going to keep on watching this one as it develops across the North Atlantic. Again, this one is going to steal headlines over the next couple of days, worldwide headlines. This is a massive storm developing across the North Atlantic. Back further south into the tropical region, we have Invest 97L. We talk about what an invest is all the time, but just as a refresher, it means area of investigation. Hurricane Center is able to run the models whenever they designate this as an invest. So there's X marks the spot. If you happen to be watching the satellite last night, it looked like we were going to be way ahead of schedule here in getting a tropical cyclone. That completely closed off area, the low-level center, convection was firing the thunderstorms, and then it fell apart. So it was not able to completely go through its tropical cyclogenesis, as we call it. It fell apart. We still have a very disorganized center right here, kind of more of that still open trough hanging tight in the eastern Caribbean. Not much has changed with the development zone per se, but it has increased in its probability from the hurricane center. We're now showing red there, so that high likelihood that we are at least going to get a tropical depression over the next couple of days as it gradually moves due west. This nub is still here because there's some model guidance that does want to take this up in that realm. That is in the lower realm of possibilities, I will say, but nonetheless, it is still in that realm. I mentioned earlier, now that we have an invest, we start to get the infamous spaghetti plots being run here. You see right there through Central America, a lot of the reliable models continue to take this due west. There will be kind of that tick. Some of these try to take it toward Belize eventually. So that's something that we're going to watch again at the end of kind of that landfall around Central America to see if it can kind of be pulled up north just a little bit and impact us towards the Yucatan Peninsula and, of course, into Belize. So those are going to be two things that we are going to be watching closely over the next couple of days. I want to show you here the straight-up model forecast. This is going to be the GFS, which continues to be the more aggressive one. The Euro camp, if you've been following our videos here, we've been showing you that it has been on the weaker side, and it has been to the more west side going forward. And coming up in just a second, I'm going to show you some of the ensemble forecast here when it comes to this system. But nonetheless, let's take you further out. And you see the spin. It certainly has trying to get its act together, although not as aggressive as it was. It keeps it kind of broad. It keeps it kind of wide. That's what we tend to like. If it is going to develop, if it stays broad and wide like that, it really can't strengthen much, even while we do have those conditions that are favorable for development. But regardless, some impacts are likely coming to Central America. At the very least, some very, very heavy rains. We're going to be watching that for potential mudslides, landslides, things like that, flash flooding going forward over the next couple of days. So just want you to keep that in mind. And then eventually, we see this kind of go that way. Note, though, it does bring it back up toward Belize. It brings it like right on through Nicaragua, Honduras, and then kind of chills there around Belize before eventually moving through Mexico and then fizzling out. So a couple of things that we are going to be watching closely here to see if that comes into fruition. I want to show you the Euro now, which is much less bullish. I mean, bearish, pretty much. Here it is now. There's November 2nd. It is very strung out. It is very broad. We barely have anything going on. There's our little open wave right on through there. So it is very weak. At that point, we don't have a tropical system. We may be able to get one here by the time it gets towards landfall. Nonetheless, we are still looking at this thing pretty weak, pretty broad. It will still bring some very heavy rain to parts of Honduras, Nicaragua, maybe getting down to Costa Rica and to Panama. But still, this is a fairly weak system going forward on the European model. So again, it's that battle between the Euro and GFS as we typically see going forward. Now, ensemble-wise, that's the best thing to look at this stage of the game. So I want to show you the GFS and the European ensembles. First with the European, and just like its parent model, it keeps it very weak. You see that blue color. Let me get it back over to my other screen. You see that blue color. You see the darker blue color. That to put up to the scale that we're looking to the scale now, 20 to 30 knot winds. That is a very weak system. So once we start to get into the darker colors, those brighter colors, the orange, the red, the purple, and the pink, that's when you start to talk about hurricane and strengthening hurricane. That is not what we have according to the Euro. Now, according to the GFS, a little bit of a different story. It still is a little more aggressive on the turn. Note that a few of these members do take it north toward Belize and the Yucatan. a little more aggressive on the GFS. It has that turn happening as we get towards the coast of Nicaragua and Honduras, and a few of these turn even faster. But that's kind of the name of the game. The stronger the storm, it's going to have that tendency to turn. And note how strong some of these are to the west of Jamaica and around the Cayman Islands. If you're watching from Jamaica or the Cayman Islands, that is on the lower realm of possibilities. Certainly, we're respecting these ensemble members and kind of keeping that open, but that is going to be on the lower end of probabilities. I would favor something for weaker and further to the south. We always watch. We know that the water here is jet fuel. We are going to have kind of favorable upper level environment as it works its way through. The shear is going to be limited, especially central and southern part of the storm. Might be a little bit of northerly shear. Regardless, though, it is looking like, and it is my hope anyway, if we do have to be impacted by a system in Central America, that it does stay kind of ugly looking on satellite and that it stays weak. We're going to be watching for that flood threat, but again, we're going to watch this closely for any kind of shenanigans for that turn before land, if it would maybe lift out into the Gulf of Mexico or extreme southwest Atlantic. Again, that is going to be in the lower range of possibilities right now. All right, on to the Halloween freeze. That purple color there, that's a freeze warning that is going to be there for all the way south toward Atlanta, Jackson, Mississippi, north of New Orleans into Shreveport, Waco, the Houston suburbs getting in on that. Same for San Antonio, Roanoke, Virginia. We are in that freeze warning. Freeze watch in blue. That means in the next 36 hours, we're likely going to have temperatures flirting with the freezing mark or even getting below 32 degrees. And that's all the way down to the Alabama-Florida line. So this front means business. It is going to be a strong front, certainly the coldest air of the season for most of the United States. And there you go. There's Wednesday morning. This is going to be November 1st. We're waking up to the teens, maybe single digits in spots in the upper plains, the upper Midwest, northern plains. Wednesday afternoon, that front is south of Orlando. You see really the only area hanging on to like warmth. 72 is warm, all things considered, if you're watching from Minnesota or North Dakota, but certainly 72 is cool in Florida. Southern Florida is going to stay in the 80s. That front doesn't really cross until we get into Thursday. We still have some warmth hanging on in LA, Tucson, Arizona. So that's really your bubble of warm air that kind of escapes that initial push of cooler air. Even cooler as we get into Thursday morning. Single digits and teens across the northern tier of the country. Thursday morning, waking up to the 50s and 60s in Central Florida. And then kind of cool in Tucson and LA as well. Still a little bit of warmth, though, in extreme South Florida. Alrighty, guys, that was a lot. We were talking about the weather across the pond. For those watching from the UK or France, Ireland, welcome. Thank you for tuning into the channel. Again, Caribbean, we have our eye on you. And, of course, the biggest cold front of the season arriving to make things really, really festive. Maybe too festive for Halloween across the northern tier of the country. But nonetheless, it's not snow. I'm looking at you, Minnesota, from way back in the day in the early 90s, that crazy snow and ice storm. Nothing like that, just a little chilly. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you want to stay updated on the weather, you've come to the right place. Hit that subscribe button, give it a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and we'll catch you next time.